Hello blunts, what's chillin'? In today's episode we will talk about South Korea's bullying issues in schools and society. In South Korea, suicide is the most common cause of death among individuals between 15 and 24 years of age. Researchers believe that this high suicide rate is connected to the fiercely competitive academic environment and the proliferation of bullying behaviors in South Korean schools. Bullying arises in places where there is an imbalance of power and where there is a tendency to demonstrate peer group status. Thus, schools are a perfect place for bullying to emerge. Being bullied or being a bully is associated with lower educational attainment and lower wages later in life. Despite these serious consequences, there is not much economic research that estimates the total cost of bullying to society. The level of bullying in schools in South Korea has become unbelievably severe, according to 2012 National School Violence Survey conducted by the Foundation for Preventing Youth Violence, or FPYV. About 12.0% of 5,540 students surveyed answered that they have been bullied, 12.6% stated that they have bullied, and 40.8% of the students claimed that school violence was extremely severe. Another survey of 4.5 million students conducted by the Korean Ministry of Education reported that about 63.6% of bullying occurred during school hours, 50.0% of which occurred in the classrooms during break. The reason behind school violence was not too profound. About 40.0% of the assailants surveyed responded that they bullied with no reason at all or just for fun. Though the rate of incidents of bullying decreased in 2012 compared to that of 2011's 18.3%, school violence is still a serious problem. According to the Korean Ministry of Education, 71.6% of students surveyed that had been bullied, about 55,000 people, claimed that the experience was hard to bear. Furthermore, according to FPYV, the percentage of students who stated that the emotional pain due to bullying was beyond tolerable level increased from 33.5% to 49.3% between 2011 and 2012. These statistics show that though the amount of school violence decreased, the level of pain encountered by the victim has become much more severe. The deeper emotional wounds of the victims can lead to students dropping out of school, having difficulty adapting to school life, or even attempting suicide. According to FPYV, 39.3% of students who have been bullied were found to resist going to school. Consequently, the students would have more difficulty adapting to their school environment and enjoying a normal school life. Severe bullying can also lead to even more extreme consequences. According to CNN, South Korea's suicide rate among youth increased by 57% in 2011 compared to 2001, and bullying is one of the causes known to contribute to South Korea's extremely high youth suicide rate. With the increase in number of students who'd experienced serious pain from bullying, the number of students who had considered suicide due to school violence has also increased. In 2011, 31.4% replied to have attempted or have considered suicide after being bullied. In 2012, the rate rocketed to about 44.7%. The severity of school violence has increased as changes occurred in the trend of bullying. One change that has occurred is the increasing variety of types of abuse assailants inflict upon victims. In the past, most bullying took the form of physical abuse and outcasting. Recently, many more types of abuse have emerged, posing emotional pain in addition to physical pain upon the victims. According to the Korean Ministry of Education, the incidence of verbal abuse was the highest, 35.3%, followed by outcasting, 16.5%, physical assault, 11.5%, and cyberbullying. Furthermore, the amount of cyberbullying has been increasing steadily, from 7.3% in 2012 to 9.7% in 2013. The nature of bullying in South Korea. South Korean culture lays significant importance on conformity. What is conformity and why does it matter so much in the South Korean classrooms? Conformity is the societal need for everyone to stick to the same patterns and roles, look alike, dress alike, have the same beliefs and follow the same trends. In such society, standing out is dangerous. It's frowned upon and it attracts the negative type of attention. Accordingly, children in South Korea value belonging and conforming and being one and the same, focusing on academic and athletic success and shunning out those who are different. This short cultural background is very necessary in the understanding of both the causes and the techniques of bullying in South Korea. It explains why the most severe and most prevalent type of bullying in South Korea is social bullying. Causes of bullying in South Korea. Bullying in South Korea, be it social or physical, verbal or online, can be attributed to many factors, among which are the following: conformity, natural rejection of anyone who stands out, whether by choice or involuntarily, is due to the dominant culture of conformity we previously discussed. Consequently, children who look different, too short, too tall, too thin, or too fat, are seen as outcasts and treated as such. The length of the school day, unlike American and most European schools, the South Korean school day can be extremely long, extending from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. That is, children spend up to 16 hours, and sometimes more, at school, which means school practically becomes their main home. It's where they eat and where they study and where they nap. The long hours can contribute to making the effects of bullying severe, since there's barely no escape from it. Lack of school help and protective policies. There's a general lack of procedure taken by the school to ensure the safety of the children. Most teachers don't know how to deal with the problem, especially in cases of social bullying, where a whole class is involved. According to one survey, 41.8% of the students who sought school helping policies have found them inefficient, and their situation wasn't made better. Social bullying and the Wangta. We attempted to explain above how social bullying is the most pronounced type of bullying in South Korean schools, and how that came about. Due to the huge value society reserves to community and conformity, exclusion has come to be the cruelest form of abuse a South Korean child can be subjected to. The phenomenon of Wangta, loosely translated into loser but can also refer to the whole situation, not just the victim, is a perfect example of using social exclusion to punish or emotionally abuse a student. Wangta is where a whole class agrees to completely ignore a single student, not for one day, not for a couple of weeks, but for the whole year. If you keep in mind the amount of time students regularly spend at school, you'll realize the severity of the abuse. Having to spend almost your whole day, 16 hours or more, with no social interactions whatsoever for the whole academic year can be extremely damaging to the psyche of a child who wouldn't even understand why this is happening to them. Why does this happen? There's no satisfactory answer to that. Often the child hasn't provoked any attention. Sometimes they'd be a little different in how they present themselves or how they look. Sometimes they are shy or a little too anxious, but other times there's no apparent reason as to why they are chosen to be the Wangta. The bigger issue with such situations is that the whole classroom does not always intend the Wangta victim harm. It's started by the bullies who pick on the child or abuse them in different ways. The rest of the students, even if compassionate, are forced to ignore the child not to be Wangta too. They are afraid to sit next to them, practice with them in class, or include them in any social activity. This can pose a challenge on teachers who try to help. The atmosphere of fear and intimidation causes even the good kids to participate in the bullying. It also prevents them from seeking help or telling a parent or a teacher, and things remain unsolved.
못했는 말 지금 전할게요.
Lim Ji-young reads the suicide note of her 13-year-old son. Sung-min jumped out of the 7th floor window of the family home 7 months ago because he was being bullied at school.
전선줄을 목에 감아서
Her son's final words describe how he was robbed and beaten by boys in his class. Electrical wire was tied around his neck and he was burned with lighters. Lim does not want to show her face on camera. She's only told close friends and family how her son died. She had no idea he was being bullied. She relives the day police called her to come home. When she arrived, she saw a body outside her apartment block covered in a white cloth. I pulled back the cloth and saw my son, she says. I put my arms around him and felt he was still warm. I said he's still alive and I called for a doctor, but they told me he's already dead. When I looked up, I saw the open window. His bedroom has not been touched since that day. The parents and older brother all have trouble sleeping. As a teacher herself, Lim says schools are not doing enough to protect their students.
학교, 사회, 부모, 선생, 피해자, 가해자, 방관자.
학교 폭력의 근간 끊지 못한 악순환 교실이란 좁은 사각의 링에는 없어 출구가 그래 결국 학교란 이 사회의 축소판 어른들이 멋대로 만든 약육강식의 풍토가